So I guess I got to separate two hats here. I have my PadSplit hat where I'm the PadSplit founder CEO,
Yeah.
but I've also been in this business as an investor for a long time. So I started buying single family rental properties in 2008. I started buying rent by the room and apartments in 2009 and have done commercial as well. So uh, putting on my investor hat for a moment, uh, I I target and I try to be local. So I'm more or less entirely in the Atlanta metro area and generally pretty close into town. Uh, I target the affordable workforce segment. So think anybody who works at the airport that is not the pilot. Think anybody who is working in a hotel. Anybody who works in retail. Um, Anybody who works in some sort of administrative capacity or security guards is another example. Like who's the kind of that core workforce that is going to be highly motivated to find a place to live that is relatively close to their place of work. They're going to work in person. So they're not typically remote workers. They're not typically students, but they earn money, but they don't qualify to get a traditional one bedroom apartment, whether that's because the deposit is too expensive or the rent is too expensive relative to what their income is. And so my thesis as an investor is that like there is a huge pool of people to choose from that are going to be super attracted to affordable, flexible room situations that are close to work. And so that's who my target is. And the types of homes that I then go look for are the ones that are close to those major employment centers or services that I know those people are going to need. So close to hospitals, close to airports, close to public transportation. Um, and then I design those homes to be outfitted with the amenities that those people are generally looking for. In most cases, it's not a lot, right? I mean, they want clean, safe, affordable is really what they're targeting. They want a place that they can come home to that's quiet, that they can either watch TV in their room or just get a little bit of sleep before they go work their second job or whatever their case happens to be. But also close to public transportation is something that I target. Uh, the caveat here is like there are some hosts who their target customer is a traveling nurse or a flight attendant um, and or a student or a retiree, and like they want to curate a special community experience, and both of those things are capable on the platform. So like the suite of services that PadSplit provides to me as a host or someone who's targeting just a higher end demographic that's maybe more interested in flexibility than affordability or just amenities at a slightly higher price. Uh, those properties are going to look different, and uh, it's what I would say universally is like, look, if you have a beachfront home on the Gulf Coast of Florida or on the West Coast, like you're always going to be better off doing short-term rental in those situations. If you have like this
Yeah.
amazing mountain home with 360-degree views, like yeah, it's a short-term rental. Uh, but for the homes that you're looking for this strategy, it could be I am in maybe the middle of nowhere, but really close to an Amazon distribution facility, and I know that there's no housing there. It could just as equally be I am in a class B or C neighborhood really close to an airport. I have a new construction home that we built a few years ago that is on a major double yellow line thoroughfare right next to a gas station. That lot would not have been attractive to most any other investor, but I could build a duplex pad split on it, and it cash flows like a machine. And I mean, it does incredibly well. It's close to the airport. There's a bus stop literally right in front of the property, and so you don't need a lot of parking, but it's a phenomenal location. Uh, and so it depends a little bit on what your target is, but for me, I always think the base of the pyramid is the widest. Where can I provide value for that workforce segment who I know they have employment and they have stable employment in a lot of cases, or they have retirement income. And you can be close to those services or public transportation where somebody making $30,000 to $35,000 a year is just going to find a lot of value in these nicely furnished rooms compared to renting a really crappy apartment with a high deposit and where they're going to just uh, take advantage of you on rent increases every single year or whenever they can.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Um, what is the average like monthly rent for something like that for a room like that?
Yeah. So on a monthly basis right now, it's probably 790, give or take.
Okay.
And that includes furniture, all utilities, Wi-Fi, typically laundry. We provide access to telemedicine for those customers if they need it. And then we also use a third-party group called Isusu to report on-time payments to credit bureaus so that they can see their FICO scores increase as well.
Got it. Okay. So, and what's the sweet spot in terms of number of bedrooms typically? Do you see?
Depends who you ask. Yeah. For me, it's 6 to 8. Um,
Okay.
what you find is, in the way this business works, is like short-term rentals are the fractionalization of real estate by time, right? It's you pay a lot more to stay 3 days at a place than you would if you had a 12-month lease. Well, for PadSplit and co-living, it's the fractionalization of space. And so when you total up what it costs to rent one bedroom, it ends up being a much greater income generating opportunity uh, rather than renting the entire property itself, right?
Yeah.
If you think about how the traditional rental market works, you have your first bedroom, which is really the only one that's market rate, but it's by far the highest rent per square foot. And then the second bedroom is not worth the same as the first. The third bedroom is not worth the same as the second, so forth and so on, to the point where you get to the fourth or fifth property and or fourth or fifth bedroom rather, and like there's not really any difference between renting a 5 bedroom house or a 4 bedroom house. So for PadSplit, what changes is, well, you can make that first bedroom more of a value for the customer by saying I'm going to price it 70% of whatever a 1 bedroom apartment or studio apartment would cost, but the second bedroom is worth the same, third bedroom is worth the same, et cetera, et cetera. So the more bedrooms you have, look at this on a spreadsheet and you're like, oh my gosh, there's incredible
Yeah. No
revenue
kidding.
generating opportunity here, which is how, on average, every host earns 2x greater net operating income, even after our expenses, after property management, compared to a long term rental. So, for people who are looking to generate long term revenue to cover their income and leave their job, like this is an outstanding opportunity. And in my opinion, the best out there, which is why I started doing it years and years ago, long before I ever started PadSplit, was recommending this strategy circa like 2012 onwards, was because I was comparing my P&Ls of long-term rentals, multifamily and single family compared to this rent by the room thing. And it was super evident that these rent by the rooms just beat the pants off of every other strategy. Uh, so, like, as you look at the ideal number of bedrooms, you want enough where you can really increase that yield comparatively to whatever you could rent it for in a traditional way or even a short term rental, but not so many that the management or the human relationships inside become just onerous. Uh, and to me, that's 6 to 8. Uh, with that said, I mean, we have some hosts who like 10 bedrooms. We have some hosts who do three, right? And usually the ones who are doing three or four, they have an existing Airbnb that might not be on the beach or at the top of the mountain, and it's just kind of in a B location that's not getting great occupancy or doesn't have 5-star reviews. And they find that by converting it, they can increase their net operating income just because of the consistency that they have nights filled, right? Where we know that on average, a resident here in Atlanta is going to stay 9.3 months. So uh, even if you book that quote nightly rate much lower, when you know that it's filled that much more and you're renting by the bedroom, your net is significantly higher than it would be even under a short-term rental. And so they will just switch from a furnished Airbnb unit to a furnished PadSplit unit, even at 3 bedrooms, and it still works.
Hmm.
But it really depends on the user and the host and what their strategy is. I have some hosts who swear by 4 or 5 bedrooms and just like try to push long-term residency and high retention tenants, and others who like more is always better.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I've long been kind of in the middle, and for me, it's always been 6 to 8, and that's where we see a lot of really good outcomes, both from the host standpoint and the member experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And you can see why. I mean, if you start multiplying the average of, 700 and something dollars per month times 8, you're in the
Yeah,
$8,000 a month,
sure.
income.
Oh yeah, and
That's
you could easily be 1,200, 13, $1,500 a month for a bedroom in a
wow.
lot of markets as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty incredible. And so, where I guess I don't see a whole lot of 8 bedrooms advertised, unless it's a mansion.
Sure.
So, how does that work? Do most people convert living space to
They do.
bedrooms? Is that how it
Yeah,
works?
yeah, they
Okay.
do. I mean, the question I ask people is, especially if you're in the long-term rental business, and if the goal is you want to create enough rental revenue to literally live off of it.
Hmm.
um, if you're running a long-term rental, how much have you gotten paid in rent for your formal dining room?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Like zero. Zero. How about the second living room or the family
yeah,
room? Like nothing. Uh,
right.
the answer is zero. And so I use especially like a home office or a formal dining room as really easy points of comparison, because what's the difference between a formal dining room and a bedroom? And usually it's like furniture and maybe a closet, maybe not,
A door.
and a door.
Yeah,
So what's your cost to make that conversion and put in a door? You weren't providing the furniture. So let's say the furniture on average for an individual bedroom is going to be like $1,000 or less, and you can go on Amazon shopping list right now and find full bedroom set furniture with mattress and everything for $650. So installed $1,000. Maybe you spend $1,500 on just converting the door and the space and changing the chandelier to a ceiling fan or what have you. So let's just say it's $2,500 to convert that space, and now you're renting it out for $800 a month. Well, does that sound like a good investment if you're interested in creating enough revenue to live on?
it's
Like
pretty nice. Yeah,
it's pretty hard to beat that
yeah,
anywhere. And so that's what people do is they'll convert those spaces that are underutilized and completely unmonetized, and actually build new housing inventory. Uh,
wow.
the other thing I think that this is important point to touch on is that like we have a housing shortage in this country, uh, that is putting people out on the streets that have full-time jobs, and yet we have all of this space in single family homes that is unmonetized and unused and completely wasted for all intents and purposes. Well, you just created, if you converted that formal dining room for $2,500, you created a new living unit for the largest segment of the demographic segment of the population in the country, uh, and compare that to the average subsidy required to build a new apartment, which is like $250,000. Okay, so for 1/100th of the cost, you just created a unit, and instead of taking 3 to 4 years, it took you like a weekend. I mean,
Yeah,
that just like both for your bottom line and for taxpayers in the country as a whole. Uh, and again, I felt this way long before PadSplit, which is why I started the company. Is this just makes way more sense for everybody involved than the current way that we are creating housing right now. And lo and behold, if you are so inclined to be an entrepreneur or investor who's looking to create enough income to live off of, this is a much more efficient way to do it.